I think I'm going to join in on Fixed Blade Friday. What I'm going to show you today is my favorite fixed blade knife. This is a knife that I made maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And ever since I made it, this has been my go-to for everything. Doesn't matter if it's camping, doing yard work, just a general carry, doing carpentry work. This is the knife that I go to. I made this knife from scratch. This is 01 tool steel. It's 5/32 of an inch thick with a saber grind. The scales are bloodwood, and I use tubular pins. And the lanyard comes out the back of the knife. What this lanyard is for is you can get your pinky in there and then hold the knife and do a little bit of light chopping. That increases the length of the knife, but that makes sure your grip is solid and that your hand doesn't slide off. I don't like lanyards to the back of a knife where the rope is always getting in your way. This knife has been incredibly tough. I mean, I've beat on it. It's been through the ringer. It does fine work. This knife can be used for hunting, processing deer and other game. I've used it fishing. I've used this knife for some light batoning and chopping while camping. It's been used for all sorts of things. I don't know if you can tell. You can see how small that bevel is. That's a 30-degree bevel, or 15 degrees per side, and the bevel is that small. I ground this knife very thin behind the edge. Even though this thing is 5/32 of an inch thick, it is an incredible slicer. I mean, the primary function of a knife is to cut. If a knife doesn't cut, what good is it? So this has just been an unbelievable design. This knife was inspired by a Benchmade bushcrafter. It's the same blade design from a Benchmade bushcrafter, but they make theirs in S30V steel, and I didn't want S30V steel. I wanted a good, extra tough carbon steel, and 01 gives me that strength and that dependability, and the ability to take a very low angle edge without chipping. Now the Benchmade, it was what I considered to be about the perfect blade, but I didn't like the steel choice, and I also didn't like the handle. This handle design was inspired from a Bark River Aurora that I had. I loved the handle on that knife. It gave plenty, it was nice and long. This is the basic shape of that handle, except this is a lot thicker. This is a lot beefier. I really like this handle. So this is a combination of two knives, the Benchmade Bushcrafter and a Bark River Aurora, taking some design aspects of both, but improving each of them. This has just been a wonderful knife. If I could only have one knife, this would probably be it. You look at the handle contours with the swell in the middle and how it flares out on the end. That aids in that chopping. It keeps that knife will not slide out of your hand, especially when you put your pinky through here. And here's the contours from the side. There's also black liners in here. It's hard to see because this wood has gotten darker over the years. It's bloodwood and it was more of a blood red, but the finish on it is tung oil. So as you use it, the oils from your hands and whatever you're working with get into the wood and it becomes darker. Now there's been many times that I thought about cleaning this up because this is one of the early knives that I've made. You'll see even here on the handle, the scratch pattern is the wrong way. I'd rather have the scratch pattern going along the spine of the knife, not across from it. But this being one of the earlier knives that I made, I didn't want to change it because I had the handle absolutely perfect. I didn't want to do anything to mess it up. See, on the bottom here, the scratch pattern is correct. And on the top of the spine here, it's correct. But on the top of the handle, scratch pattern is the wrong way. So I thought about fixing it. I thought about sanding the handle down and putting a nice finish on it. Cleaning up the blade. As you can see, this thing has taken a patina. It's stained, it's spotted. It's got a lot of dark spots on it. But the more I think about it, I don't want to make any changes to it. The condition that the knife is in, the stains, the darker handle, you know, it tells a story about this knife. It tells where it's been. Even the scratch pattern not being the way I would prefer it to be on the handle. That shows you where I was at in my skills at that time when I made this knife. Like I said, this was one of the early knives that I made. And it's one of the knives that got me into knife making. Now, I don't think I've said, but the blade on this is about 4.5 to 4 3/4 inches. Now the sheath, this was experimental. This is a multi-carry sheath. I added this loop on after the fact, and I like to carry this knife in a cross draw. A cross draw is really good because a lot of times in the woods I'll have a firearm on my right hand side, then I can carry the knife on my left hand side in a cross draw. And it's also removable. You can take these 2 screws out and remove that loop. You can also carry it on the dangler, or if you remove the loop, on the standard, in the standard belt loop here. This is just a carabiner, a round carabiner that attaches the dangler. So you have a lot of different ways of carrying this. Now if you look at this, the edge here, look how thick that leather is. Let me get a ruler out here. That's 1/2 inch thick. That's the leather on each side plus the welt. 1/2 inch thick. I mean, this sheath is heavy duty. This thing I built it to last a lifetime. This is also one of the first times that I worked with leather, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no idea what edge burnishing was. So you see, I've also at times wanted to make a better sheath or just improve this one. But again, just like the knife, it tells a story. It's got character. It's lost some color here. It's almost more of a bronze. It's seen quite a bit of use. And see how thick, you can see how thick the leather is compared to my finger that I'm holding up next to it. This is 10 to 12 ounce leather. I think this stuff is closer to 12 ounce. The knife fits in there very snugly. You don't get any rattle. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to come out. So that's it for Fixed Blade Friday. My favorite knife. 5/32 inch 01 tool steel, 4.5 inch blade, bloodwood handles, hidden lanyard, black liners, saber grind, ground very thin with a 30-degree bevel, 15 degrees per side, and a very, very heavy-duty leather sheath. The stitching is artificial sinew, and this is real thick, heavy-duty stuff. Even though it's just a single row of stitching, that's never going to go anywhere. So I hope you like this knife. I have named it the Outdoorsman, and I think if you look back 7 or 8 years, the very first video I made on my channel was this knife. Thank you.